Hello everyone, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back with another video here today. We're doing Cleveland Browns here for the 32 team prediction series for 2024-2025 NFL season. So join me here today. I'm reviewing the Cleveland Browns, but before we get started, please leave a like down below, comment any suggestions for future videos below, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Without further ado, let's get into Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. If you're familiar with the series, once again, we will be starting off with the depth chart and showing off what the current team has and what do I think of that team, as well as looking at their stats and all that good stuff. So first of all, their quarterback is Deshaun Watson. Go figure. Go figure. Deshaun Watson is still employed with the Cleveland Browns because he's being paid a crap ton of money not to be. Well, I guess he is still playing, but he gets injured. He was, suspended. So maybe we'll get a full season out of him. I'm not too sure. We'll see. Deshaun Watson has not been the same since his big Texans time. So we'll see. Jameis Winston is their backup currently. He's going to be a reliable backup at the very least. So if Deshaun Watson does go out, I like Jameis Winston. We'll see. Nick Chubb, man. So, I don't know. There's a lot of question marks surrounding Nick Chubb and whether he's going to play at the start of the season, whether he's going to be at full capacity or whatever. His injury was pretty bad. That's kind of just a lowdown of what I'm going to go ahead and say. As much as I love Nick Chubb and how good of a running back he is, he's probably arguably one of the best running backs, maybe number 2, number 3, depending on what you want to rank him after his injury. But man, it's hard to kind of give a whole lot of confidence in him based on what happened with his injury. I still hope that he's at least a good running back that will kind of spark up into something, but he's not going to be the best this next season because he'll probably, at the very least, probably be splitting a lot of carries with Jerome Ford and Deontay Foreman. I think the Cleveland Browns would be really stupid to kind of run Nick Chubb dry, especially with his current injury, because maybe if he has another year of like a healthy season, he might be able to recover back to his former self, but it's going to take some time. So we'll see. They have a decent running back trio if Nick Chubb is even 50%. Just kind of keep Nick Chubb in the backfield or back burner. Let Jerome Ford and Deontay Foreman kind of also be a house. Now, they also only have really some big juggernauts who kind of crush through lines. They really don't have the explosive guy. So we'll see how that works out for the running backs here. Their wide receiver trio is actually really interesting, and wide receiver quadruple if you count David Njoku. Amari Cooper is just a reliable, great receiver. Like Tyler Lockett will probably get you close to 1,000 yards, if not 1,000 yards. He's going to be pretty reliable for that. Jerry Jeudy has just been fine. He's a wide receiver 2 type guy, and he has apparently untapped potential that might be able to be there. As a Denver Broncos fan, I like Jerry Jeudy. I hope he does well here, but I don't think he'll be anything spectacular. I don't think he's going to break out. I think he's just going to be a reliable wide receiver, just like Elijah Moore. I think Elijah Moore is just a good, reliable third receiver. He'll probably get like slightly less than 700 yards or something like that. And then you got David Njoku, who's like a beast. David Njoku is a fucking beast of a guy at the tight end position. And I think is a really good, reliable person for Deshaun Watson or Jameis Winston, whoever ends up, throwing the snaps throughout the season. Their O-line is a really sneaky good O-line. Their O-line's actually been pretty solid in the last few years, and especially in the run game. I think their guards are really damn good, and their tackles are not too bad either. It's just that the quarterback usually kind of stupid. And of course, you got their freaking defense. I don't really have to say much about their defense. I do think their secondary took a step back this offseason, but not like by a ton, just a little bit. But their defensive line, edges, everything else, tackles, like all this fucking awesome. I love their defense. I think it's probably a little, not I don't want to say worse, but I don't expect as much as I did from them last year. I still look forward to seeing them play though. Let's look at the stats from all these players and kind of go from here. And actually, we'll have to look up Deshaun Watson too and his stats here. Actually, I'll go ahead and pull him up right here because I did not pull him up originally because we're going to look at his Texans career, even though he probably doesn't deserve it. Looking at the quarterback position, though, Deshaun Watson played 6 games last year with 1,000 yards, so he probably would have barely broke 3,000 if that. 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, fine. Total of 45 sacks last year. If you count all the quarterbacks here, they all broke basically 4,000 yards. Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's not a whole lot. Interception-wise, yeah, again, not too spectacular. Rushing, Jerome Ford took a majority of the carries and got 813 yards. Kareem Hunt, a decent bit with 400. Nick Chubb only got 170 throughout 2 games. I don't expect a whole lot from Nick Chubb, even though it was only 2 games he did that much production. Again, he got hurt, and I just don't know. We'll see how it ends up, but it's just going to be tough. Deshaun Watson, about 150 yards, so he probably would end up in the 400s after the whole season, or somewhere close to 400. Looking again, last year, Jacoby Brissett was the guy who threw the most yards because Deshaun Watson only was there for 6 games. Cool beans, again, kind of close to 3,000 yards if he played the whole season. 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, so at least he's pretty consistent with about 21 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, so that would have been something. 44 sacks total, pretty all right. Nick Chubb, again, in his prime, fucking beast. Otherwise, not too much depth there. 12 touchdowns on the ground for Nick Chubb last year. Nick Chubb didn't get any last year, but between Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford, that was about 13. Looking at 2021 and the quarterback, of course, Baker Mayfield barely broke 3,000 throughout most of the season. Nick Chubb, beast, of course, as always. Not really much in the backfield after that. Baker Mayfield got 17 to 13 interceptions. 8 touchdowns from Nick Chubb. 4 touchdowns after that from the ground. Looking again, Baker Mayfield, 3,500 in this team, 26 to 8. Nick Chubb, 1,000, 12 touchdowns, etc., etc. Now we'll look at the receivers real quick and kind of break that down. Jarvis Landry in 2020 got 840, but otherwise they really didn't have much. They actually spread the ball quite a bit in terms of yardage and touchdowns. 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 5, 3, 2 in terms of touchdowns. Pretty dang good. David Njoku got 213 yards. Anybody else notable? I mean, Odell Beckham, of course, really good, but didn't get much of the yardage that year. Austin Hooper actually got 435 yards as a tight end 1, so that's pretty good. Looking again at receiving, the number 1 receiver, Donovan Peoples-Jones, is basically 600. David Njoku was tight end 1 with 475, but was splitting carries with Austin Hooper. Let's probably go back. Let's not click on Austin Hooper. He's not really relevant. Jarvis Landry, 570, began with touchdowns ranging from about 3 to 4. Last year, well, the year before, I guess, 2022, in terms of receiving, Amari Cooper broke 1,000 pretty easily. Donovan Peoples-Jones right after him at 839, and David Njoku actually was 628, with Amari Cooper getting 9 touchdowns, Donovan Peoples-Jones with 3, David Njoku 4, etc., etc. Then we got in this previous year, Amari Cooper really killed it this last year, 1,250 yards, and then 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns for David Njoku, and broke 800 yards easily. Elijah Moore got 640, Jerome Ford a little after that. Pretty overall okay season for this team, and I'm kind of really delighted to see how well, especially Amari Cooper, has done. Looking quickly at defense, we'll go ahead and kind of break that down. 49 sacks to 18 interceptions. Then we got 34 sacks into 11 interceptions. Pretty bad, actually, in 2022. 43 sacks to 13 interceptions. All right year there. Then we got... boom, 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 38 sacks, 11 interceptions in 2020. So very, very interesting when you break it kind of down in that whole regard. I do have my predictions up for, kind of accumulating all this, but that's kind of the quick rundown for the Cleveland Browns. Let's kind of look at some of the players that have not been on the Cleveland Browns their whole time. I guess I could look at Amari Cooper too and see how well he's really kind of emerged. We'll actually do that as well. I kind of didn't think about some of these players as much as I probably should have. Because I've known Amari Cooper my whole time, pretty much watching football in this recent run as a Brown, so it's kind of interesting to look at that. But let's look at Amari Cooper first. I think he's one of the more notable players on the team. Of course, he ended up with 2 1,000-yard seasons, but before that in Dallas, he actually was only 865, but a lot of touchdowns. He scores a lot of touchdowns, usually pretty consistently. But before that, he did get in the 1100s in terms of yardage. But he's been playing for a while. He's kind of been on and off. He was really good in the beginning, kind of fell off a little bit, and then now has had a career resurgence the last 5 years. So pretty dang good for Amari Cooper. Jerry Jeudy is kind of another weird case. He's never broken 1,000 yards, and he's gotten 1 good season with 6 touchdowns. Otherwise, not too much good. So Jerry Jeudy will be very interesting to see how well he does, especially in complement of Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore and David Njoku. And Deshaun Watson. Let's go and just look at the fall off of Deshaun Watson from 2020 to 2023. 4,823 yards right before he got, suspended. 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, didn't play all of 2021. Then all of a sudden he came back and has thrown 2 1,000-yard seasons with 7 touchdowns each. It sucked. And even before that, he got 3,800, 4,100. He was pretty good. If he even did he's doing a third of his production right now. Now, of course, obviously, this is from him playing a third of the games, but it's just that it's less than a third of his production, really, when you break it down like that. It's just rough. Watching Deshaun Watson go down like this, down the track, has been both the most gratifying and the worst experience of my life, because Deshaun Watson was exciting to watch from everything looking back at it, but also he's a horrible person, and I shouldn't say horrible person. He's just a bad person. I think horrible should be passed down to people who are historically bad, very, very historically bad. But he's not a great person, and I don't want to see him succeed. But I also want to see some excitement from the Browns. I think the Browns are a great team. I like everything behind Deshaun Watson. So it's really hard to root against the Cleveland Browns, but it's also really hard to root for them. So I kind of just passively just say, okay, cool. Why do you think I rooted for so hard for him in the playoffs? Because I really wanted to see him win. That way it'd be like, aha, Joe Flacco won a ring for you, Deshaun Watson. But then again, Watson would have a ring, so take that as you will. Either way, what's going on my predictions for this next season? They'll be kind of all over the place, but we'll see if y'all agree with me. Cleveland Browns are up next in this PowerPoint prediction. And first up, of course, is Deshaun Watson. The trend is beginning. If he plays a full season, I don't think he'll do very, very well, nor do I don't think he'll play a full season. That's why I have him 11 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I'll give him 2 rushing touchdowns randomly. He'll be just short of 400 rushing yards or something along those lines. I'll probably give him a couple more passing touchdowns because I probably think he can play about half the season. So around 15 passing touchdowns, maybe 14. Sounds about right. But he's getting less than 3,000 passing yards. And I just don't see it changing. I think Jameis Winston will come in either because the Cleveland Browns are sick of his poor play or whatever. Deshaun Watson will not be the starting quarterback going into the playoffs if they make the playoffs, or at the very end of the season. He will not be the consistent starter there because I don't think Deshaun Watson is going to be the answer for Cleveland long term, and I think his career is kind of going down the toilet at this point. I think it's too long after his great seasons for him to do well, and he's very injury prone now, and so we'll see how this all occurs. But this is my prediction for Deshaun Watson. I'm going to move on from it. As for Nick Chubb, I don't think there will be a single 800-yard rusher on this team because I think if Nick Chubb does rush, I think that he'll be splitting carries with Jerome Ford as well as the other one behind him. I already forgot who it was. Oh, Deontay Foreman. I think all three of them are good. If Nick Chubb's half the capacity, he's on the level of Jerome Ford and Deontay Foreman. So if those three all kind of split, I think they'll do pretty well, but I don't think any of them will break the 800 yards. I'll give Nick Chubb 6 rushing touchdowns because I really want him to do well. And 6 is pretty good if he's a half capacity. So that's kind of wishful thinking, but it's probably realistic around the 4 spot. But let a man dream. Let a man dream. Receiving, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of keep this pretty safe. I think Amari Cooper will be over 1,100 yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. I think he'll be somewhere in between 5 and the 9 that he's usually scored. Jerry Jeudy, I'm going to give him 4 receiving touchdowns. I have a little bit of an up here, as well as 800 to 900 yards, basically receiving. That's usually where he lands, but I think it's a little bit higher, slightly higher than where he landed in Denver. So I think he'll do pretty well there. And then, of course, David Njoku will be 700 to 800 yards receiving with 5 touchdowns because he's a tight end who's probably going to be in the end zone a whole lot. Now, obviously, if you see this versus Deshaun Watson's 11 passing touchdowns, it does show that I just do not think Deshaun Watson will be throwing the majority of the passes. I think Jameis Winston will probably get about 10. I think Deshaun Watson will still technically get more passing yards and touchdowns, so I just think that Jameis Winston probably will end up with more. Again, I'm probably being a little too mean to Deshaun Watson in the passing touchdown category, but because now I'm looking at it, probably not the most consistent when it comes to things, so I probably realistically could go 14-10 or 14-9, something like that. But this will be my official one just because it felt right in the moment, so whatever, stew me. It doesn't all match up, but I'm hoping these guys get the yards they deserve because this is a lot to pass around. 2,800 right now. That's not counting the running backs, and not counting the other 5 people who probably get 1,000 accumulated. So take that as you will. Looking at it now, I do still think Deshaun Watson's gonna be less than 3,000 yards, but I do think that he'll probably throw for 15 touchdowns. We'll say Jameis Winston hopefully will throw way more. 30 to 40 sacks allowed in the O-line. I really like this O-line this next year. I think that they'll allow 30 to 40 sacks, probably on the higher end, but I think they'll still get in this second to last category on O-line sacks allowed. Sacks prediction 45 to 55, pretty mid-range for him. I think it's very doable. A little bit on the higher end, but I think they'll be on the lower end of this, like 47. We'll go with on sacks. Interceptions 14 to 16. I think they're gonna have it off here. I don't think that this is the best secondary. I think they're fine, but they're just not as good as they have been in past years. And then finally, looking at their record, this is going to be kind of a crazy prediction because I think this is going to be a really weird and wild division in general. Again, saying they're splitting these 6 divisional games 3-3. The Saints 3-3. Looking at the 5 home games, I think they can win 3 of them. I think they realistically could win 3 of them, though I think they could split or they could lose a 3rd game of this. So I'm going to say 3 wins here, 2 losses, basically making 6-5 is the record going into this next one. Looking at the top 3 here, the Broncos, Raiders, and Eagles, I'm saying that they lose 2 of these games. I just don't feel confident them playing the Raiders and Broncos. One of those teams is going to upset them. I think the Eagles are better. It kind of makes me help split the Dolphins, who I think they could lose to. So, yeah, we're going to go 7-7 right now as a record. I do think they could easily win 2 of these games right here, so it's 9-8 being their final record. Though I am being hard on them in the current moment because I am recording this on a different day than I made my prediction. Because realistically, I'm kind of giving them a game they probably could win here. They probably could win here. So I'm putting them in the category of 10 to 11 wins, even though I said they're probably going to be 9 and 8, because I think I lean heavier on the defense, O-line, and all that still being good enough to win them the games. And if Deshaun Watson does do good, I see them easily making the 10 to 11 wins. But if he doesn't play good, I think the Browns will make a switch up to hopefully squeak out to the 10th win. It's tough. The division's tough. I think they easily could go 4-2. They could also easily go 2-4 in this division. So it's tough. But I think I feel comfortable enough putting the Cleveland Browns in 10 to 11 wins total for this next NFL season. Cleveland Browns are a weird one to predict, so leave in your comments below what you think about the Cleveland Browns here. If you want to support them and show what Deshaun Watson is going to do next year, please feel free. Again, that's probably my one little hiccup is probably Deshaun Watson here. Probably could change up his a little bit. I think I was just too harsh on him, especially considering the receiving predictions. So I probably would go a little bit higher, but oh well. We'll take it as it is. Either way, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like down below if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. StraightA Dawson, out of here.